Okay, all right. Welcome again to Mastering Claude. We're doing this weekly series. I think we got one more after this, possibly a bonus after that. But I'm going to focus today on Claude projects. You'd be quite impressed with what you can do with projects. Make sound very simple, but it's quite an entire system that you got set up around managing your workflow. Okay, so let's talk a bit about that. But before I do, I'm gonna show you the ecosystem that I showed last week, and then we'll jump into the presentation. Okay, so just a reminder about Claude's ecosystem is is very comprehensive. And I showed this last week, and I will send a link out to where you can access this. It's something I actually asked Claude to help put together for me. And Claude, I grouped into seven main buckets. And these buckets here are really tremendous um, in what you can do with them. So I'm not going to go into details in each one. Again, I want to just stay at the high level of each bucket. And then perhaps as a bonus session, we go through them a bit more. But at the bucket one, I call it really more of a conversational interface, right? Which is what most of us are really familiar with your chat, mobile access, and then artifacts, which I covered off in one of the previous sessions, and memory and projects and so on, which we're going to talk a bit about today. And then bucket number two is the desktop. And this is where you take Claude essentially down to your desktop level, okay, off of the cloud and down to your desktop level where it can interact with your local machine. All right. And it's powerful, the amount of thing. You still have chat, you still have all that, but you're now talking about operating at a desktop level where it's your buddy for your desktop. And then another bucket is what I call the agentic and automation features, and that's bucket number three, where you have co-work and dispatch and routines and plugins. And it's again, each of these are almost a world unto themselves. Okay, so we could literally use a session for each of these areas. And then bucket number four, again, this is Claude's definition of buckets. This is my definition of these groupings, but I thought it was a good way to present the whole ecosystem in these buckets. So kind of groupings, I should say. Okay. And so you get Cloud Console, which I also showed in the previous session, and that's where you've got the master headquarters essentially to access a lot of things like which includes agents and so on. So here under this developer platform bucket and API access, you've got Workbench, you've got the managing agents, and all these various functionalities, if you will, or group of functionalities that fit under this bucket. And then number five bucket is coding, more for a high developer, someone who understands code and want to really get in the nitty gritty. And there's a variety of things in here: Claude Code, Claude Desktop, Code Desktop, and it just significantly rich features that fit under those buckets there as it relates to coding. And then productivity integration is another bucket. And so this is where you integrate with Excel and PowerPoint and really just, Claude actually has set up partnership with Microsoft. So these integrations essentially make it seamless so that you can talk to Claude directly inside of Excel, just like how you would with Copilot, which is Microsoft's large language model. All right. So anyway, and then number seven is the visual design, which I showed a little bit last week. And again, this is worth a whole session on itself. Claude design. If anyone is familiar with Canva, it is it's like Canva and then some. Okay, so you can really do a tremendous amount of design under virtual design under this here in terms of the available options that's available to you. And again, that's just a high level of the various ecosystem, the various groupings that make up the whole ecosystem. So I'm going to switch gears now. Now that we have that, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat, or let's or can raise that. We're going to have a Q&A at the end there. So I just wanted to make sure that I cover that off before I get into today's session. Okay, and today's session, okay, let me. All right, so mastering Claude, week number 4. And we were talking about, building your personal AI knowledge base. And so let's, for those of you who don't know me, Wayne Hinds, technology specialist, AI consultant, author of the book Reclaiming Digital Gold, and also publisher. And so I wanted to use this as an opportunity to showcase some of the things that you can do with these powerful AI tools. Hence the reason why I'm doing these sessions. Today's agenda, we're gonna spend a little bit of time on just kind of go over the projects and kind of why projects and how what are they, and then real business applications as it relates to this particular feature and functionality. And then we're going to get into some live demo, and we'll have some Q&A at the end. In terms of last week, just a quick recap, or the last session we did together, we spent some time understanding the Claude ecosystem, and then also to talk about prompting and the framework, and then we got into building some apps with artifacts, and if we defined artifacts, what they were and how to use them, and then creating sensitivity tools. We demoed a few of those, like the decision matrix and a couple of others. And of course, we showed you how to share all of your artifacts with the world or with your team, right? So that's artifacts. And now we're moving into, take those tools and make them reusable under projects. All right. So the context advantage. This is I've said artifacts was a game changer the time when we did the session on artifacts. This is another, in my opinion, great context advantage and a bit of a game changer too. Is that 40% of AI quality improvements come from better context on data and not smarter models. So in other words, understanding what you're dealing with. Okay, putting the right context around it. Then you can get the information that you want. No matter what role you're in or what business you're in, okay, context matters. Okay, what this means for you is that Claude needs to know exactly your business context. It needs to know your documents, your procedures. Some of you have statement of operations, SOPs. Okay. And so those are very important documents that you can feed Claude and say, so it understands about you, understands about your business, understands what you're trying to accomplish, and you're going to see that in the demo. And then Claude needs to know your style, your communication preferences. Really, it's no different if you brought in a consultant, and the consultant sat down with you and started asking you a series of questions about your business before the consultant started giving you any kind of advice or recommendation. It's the same concept here. You are bringing in a professional. Remember, Claude and all these AI tools have access to the world's professional that it's already been trained on and learned. So essentially, that's what you're bringing in your business when you're giving it these types of contexts that we're talking about here. So most people don't do this, but you will. Okay, it's one thing to just jump on it and start asking a Q&A, which is again, that's just straightforward use of the chat. But we're talking about a more advanced usage of it in really giving it proper context. So context is absolutely the most important when interacting with it. Well, what are Claude projects? They're dedicated workspaces where Claude understands your world. Right, so you're setting up, you're giving it instructions. Okay, you give Claude, a persistent personality, if you will. Okay, and a set of rules. Kind of, what do you want this particular tool or project to do while you're engaging with it. And don't forget, okay, so you don't have to keep going back. Oh, you remember what I told you what I wanted to do or what I wanted you to think of? it won't forget because you've given it. That's where you're giving that custom instruction. Then you got to give it knowledge base, okay, reference materials. In the corporate world, think of, or even the small, medium-sized businesses, you have a intranet, okay? I may be dating myself a bit here, but you have a central repository, is a better way of putting it, of information that a new employee, for example, can go to and they can learn, okay, whether it be online or documents on the server or wherever. It's a central repository. If they need a reference, they don't have to come and see someone each time that they have a question. They can go and research and find it for themselves. This is the kind of knowledge base that we're talking about that you're giving Claude access to under projects, and you can have different projects. But mind you, we're gonna go into into that, and you can see that firsthand. Okay, focused on chat. So what we're talking about is the chat are very precise. All right, you're not. It's even if you just say something like give me a simple question and Q&A, it has context because it knows how we're interacting. Okay, it's kind of like you're going to a special event. Okay, and you go to a special event, and that event is around a specific topic. And so you may have done your research and got prepped and go in there. So whenever you're having conversation with people, they're all in the same, you're all coming from the same place because it's the same frame of reference. And that's what the focused conversation focused chat's all about, so that you're not talking about random stuff that's not relevant. But so Claude remembers based on the documents you're providing it, based on the guidelines you've given it, it knows, okay, this is what we're talking about. Okay, we're talking about recipes and not, football, sport. Okay, all right. So that's what I mean when I say, you're giving it proper context. And then, of course, team collaboration. You can invite your team members. You can share these projects with your team members, etc. Okay. Keep projects features. Okay, so the custom instructions you give it, you're giving it a personality, a persistent personality for all the chats in that particular project. So imagine this. Okay, you go to a conference, okay, and each conference has a breakout room, and in that breakout room there are special topics. And so you go into that breakout room, and you now, switch your thinking and your questioning and your information gathering and your relative to what that breakout room is talking about. Okay, that's consider that like a project. Okay, that in that room you're meeting with the presenter, the specialist, whatever, in that breakout room, and it's all specific to that particular topic. All right. Now, not to say you can't talk about stuff outside of that, but the point is any kind of response you're going to get is relevant to that that breakout room or that particular project. Okay, and so that's another way of looking at how projects are defined. So knowledge base, reference materials, Claude uses automatically. You've got focus workspaces, which keeps related chat and context together. Zero explanation is needed. You shouldn't have to keep going back and saying, you remember I asked you to. It's not that from time to time you may not have to, but right, you shouldn't have to keep repeating. Remember I asked you to do. It's like bringing someone on board in your business, and then you constantly they keep coming to go, what did you ask me to do again, or what are we doing here? No, Claude has the context of that, so that you don't have to keep explaining each time. Okay, so no more re-explaining your business. It's got you. Okay, so better results, 40% quality improvement from better context. And that's a Harvard study that says whenever you give context to what you're discussing or engaging with, obviously you're going to have much better results. And then you get to reusable assets, like templates and tools and workflows and all these various things. So we are immersing now in the world of how do we apply these tools to our day-to-day business to drive efficiencies and to group, just like how we interact with a new person, a new employee, or existing departments within our organization or companies or whatever. That's what Claude is bringing to the table with these kinds of tools and functionality, and projects is one that closely mimics again, having a consultant that you bring in and you give it what you need and all the information that they need to be able to, act on your behalf or advise you. Okay. So when do you use projects and when don't you use it? Okay. Projects excel when you work on the same type of task repeatedly. You need Claude to remember your style or your preferences. Again, not repeating yourself. Okay. You have reference documents and guidelines and policies and procedures. You know, every company has, especially the corporate, have policies and procedures that they go back to as reference. For the most part, when we join or, when we're a part of a company or we've established our companies, those are policies and procedures that we automatically know, but they're our reference that we go to in our minds or sometimes physically. It's the same concept here. Okay. So if you have those documents, you feed them into Claude, and Claude will remember. Oh yeah, right. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. All right. You build reusable templates, or you're building reusable templates. You want to organize related work, and your team needs to share the knowledge. So imagine once you've created something and you want to share that with someone, you can just send them the link, or you can invite them to come in and even collaborate. Okay, and so those are some of the core. That's why you'd use projects. Now, why not? Okay, when would you skip projects? Something if you're doing a simple question, maybe a one-time question or having a Q&A discussion with it, or you need reference materials, or it's in other words, you don't want to go out and do some searches and all that. Okay, it's ultra simple. Quick calculation. These are types of things that I wouldn't recommend using Claude projects for, or you need total privacy and autonomy. All right. You're also, not exploring random topics. In other words, running from using the conference analogy I gave earlier with the different rooms, specific topics. You're not running from room to room, right? You're very focused on a particular topic or something project based. All right. So some of the real world examples, and we're going to actually we have time. We're going to go through some of these as in our demos, right? So imagine a data storytelling project, right? If you have massive amount of data and you have these reports you want to generate or this insight you want to get from it, my business is a consultant for years. I did data analytics, driving insights. In fact, my name of my company, 20 Insight Consulting, is based on that, driving insight in the data. You have the horde of data, and now you got to go through it and analyze, and you need these tools to be able to draw charts and draw inferences and summaries and so on, and then you do the draw the insight, from that. Well, you can do that in a split second now with this. So with a tool like Claude, because you feed it the data, the massive amount of data, it can create the charts, it can do the analysis, it can do the entire reporting, and give you metrics, give you recommendations, all in a matter of minutes. Okay, so in this example here, you're feeding it quarterly reports, for example, or financial data, sales metrics. And then you tell it, transform the complex data into clear visual narratives with actionable insights. And the goal is to visualize those reports with compelling charts and stories. This type of thing can cost thousands of dollars for a company to produce, because we used to do that for companies. All right, in mountains of analyzing mountains of data and driving insights and reports, right? And the result, every time you upload a new project, Claude instantly creates a polished visualization, identifies the key trends, and writes very clear analysis, all matching your style. So instead of what may, take, and this is being very generous, 30 minutes, can they, 3 hours can now take, 30 minutes. Some of these types of things would take days actually in under, some of the tools and the insight that, professional brings to it. So you pay, contractors, consultants, organizations that specialize in data analytics to do this kind of data storytelling for you, which can cost you thousands of dollars, and you can have Claude render these types of things in minutes. All right, so that's one example, and you'll see that actually. We'll do a demo of that in our demo shortly. Real world example number two, imagine doing a sales proposal customization project, right? So you want to feed Claude in a project. You want to feed it the proposal templates, the case studies. Again, apply this to your business. As I'm giving you, what I'm doing here is just giving you examples, right? But imagine applying this to your business so you can, think, my proposals. Oh, wow, my case studies, my pricing documents, my branding guidelines. Okay, you supply that to it, and you want to give it the instruction, something as simple as customize the proposal to clients' needs while maintaining the brand voice. In the real estate business, there are a lot of documents, legal and just reference information that realtors have to go through. And this is one power of of using something like this is having it ingest some of those documents, okay, and quickly summarizing or giving you instructions as to where to focus and what to do. And so this is an example of how you would use Claude in a project setting. And in this particular case here, the goal is to get generate a personalized, compelling proposal in minutes. And the result, simply describe the client's need, and Claude generates a customized proposal that addresses their specific challenges. Use your case studies and match your brand voice preferably. I mean, there's just so much. Again, these things can take hours. We're talking about getting this done in minutes. All right, another real world example, and I'm just using these as references just to show you. I mean, we could certainly think of a lot more outside of this. And actually, I think I have a summary page which gives other examples and ideas. But this is really here meant to stimulate your thoughts and what you can do when you start looking at this and seeing how you can go about implementing your business or your customers' businesses in Claude. In the context of some of the things we're talking about here. So, a research synthesizer project, for example, synthesizer project. All right. So in this particular situation, you may want to feed it the industry reports, competitor analysis, market research, white papers. Again, those are documents that we would take, hours to go through. Compiling them is one thing, but going through them and reading them and understanding them is a whole nother thing. And then you just feed it into Claude and you give it the instruction, identify emerging trends, competitive threats, and strategic opportunities with the goal of synthesize scattered research. Did I say that right? Yeah, scattered research into very strategic insights. Okay, with the result, that you're looking at here is, a single prompt that gives you a comprehensive analysis of that analysis that connects the dots across all research, identifies patterns, and highlights what matters for you for your strategy. All right. Manually again, being very generous here. 6 hours, that'll be a lot more like days. However, we're talking about once you collect it all, of course, probably maybe whittle it down to, a few hours. But, we can do this in minutes with Claude. So, all right, how do you build a project then? And we're going to go through this demo in the next step here as I just wrap up this part of the presentation here. First you identify the problem. Okay, what is repetitive task that frustrates you? Okay, create a project. Okay, and you want to name it very clearly with the proper description. I'll add your customized instructions. Tell Claude exactly how you want it to behave. Okay, in this particular project. Remember, it's specific to the project because you're creating, giving it a context and for it to remember. We're going to always be referencing it and interacting relative to this particular topic or situation. And then upload the knowledge, give it the documents and the guides and style examples. And then, of course, you want to refine that, iterate it. So run some test prompts. And as you run the test prompts, it's learning. Okay, so it's learning on this particular data, but this data doesn't go outside of the project. So that's another benefit of this is that it stays really to that. So it's like, again, what happens in that room stays in that room. Okay, in the context of the example I gave earlier, if you go into a conference and having a breakout session, what happens in there stays in there. Okay. All right. Common errors or fixes. Claude isn't, using my document. If you get that message from Claude, for example, or if you're recognizing it's not using my document for some reason or another, okay, that's okay. Play around with it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes when you're working with these things because they're actually learning with you and learning from you, and you're the one that's giving it the thumbs up. That they've got the right. And so reference them directly in your prompt. Just say, based on upload, please do the following. Okay. Or if you didn't, oh, here's a document I forgot to upload. Okay. So it'll even ask you, well, you want me to do what? But I don't see that document because it didn't see the reference. But we're going to show you precisely the right way of doing it in the demo. And then the custom instructions, aren't working. Well, be specific. Okay. Again, sometimes you can, just ask a simple question. And that simple question can mean so many different things, even when you got the context. So if your answer comes back and it seems vague or not right, then, be specific. Just say, okay, well, no, write an executive summary and format it with data-driven arguments, right? As an example, okay, if you had said originally, well, okay, can you analyze this for me? Okay, yeah, that's very generic, and it'll do it, but you're going to get a very long response or a very vague response. So this is where you want to be specific in your questions. Okay, uh, going back to what we talked about in the first session is having the prompt structured, or second session is structured in a way that you're giving it the role, and you're giving it the what you want out of it, and then the results and so on. So you still want to follow those prompt guidelines even though you're in projects. Okay, projects just give you context. Remember that it gives you context reference and references. Okay, I'm hitting the knowledge capacity. All right, limits. So that's common, with depending on the model you have, or depending on the monthly subscription that you have and so on, or just sometimes it's so busy, the amount of stuff you've done that day. You can go in and you can archive old records and old files. I can show you how to do that. Okay, and you can create separate projects, with different topics and so on, break it down into smaller. Don't worry so much about the hitting capacity limits. That may be the least of any concerns. And then Claude isn't remembering my preferences, for example. So test it with prompts. Okay, that's why I said when you give it the context and all the information, it's okay. Test it out. Test it, and then you can even delete those, right? So don't be afraid to delete stuff. And of course, go into with the sharing. Okay, you can, just like the artifacts we talked about in the last session with projects too. You can also share the team, and you can invite team members to collaborate with you, no matter remotely, no matter where they are. You give them permission to access it, and maybe add their questions or add their insights. And it's a wonderful. It's like a round table. You create a round table based on what you've just created in that specific to that context, and now suddenly you're having other people get involved in that. So you can work on it alone, or you can invite others, and then you can scale it. Okay, build it once, and use it across your entire system. An example here is marketing team shares the content creation project. Okay, and the brand guidelines and templates and so on. Couple of project ideas. There's so many, but I'm just, here's a couple. Weekly report generator, a content creation hub, sales proposal customizer, an email template system, a customer support system. This is all meant to give you examples of, isolated context based uh, projects that you can create. Okay. All specific to, to the various areas that's outlined here, product, documentation, AI, you can, meeting notes, format alerts. There's so many things you can do on that. So let's see this in action. And I'm going to just pause my screen, and then I'll share that. I see a question there, and I would definitely get to that comment. Yeah, thank you for that comment. Yeah, it is amazing. Okay, so let's go to the demo. And I will start with Okay, so, all right, so let's go to Claude. Again, Claude.ai. And here, the basic window. And to the left here, you have the menu system, which we've been using over the last uh, few weeks together here. And down below, you have this line item at the very top, this menu item, I should say, projects. Okay, and that's where you click on projects. And these are the projects that you currently have or that you've been working on. These are the ones that I've been working on and things that are specific to me. But okay, you can, again, well, yours would be obviously look whatever, different or however you want it to. So we're going to go and create a new project. And so this is the window that comes up when you create a new project. You're going to get, what are you working on? You give it a name and they give you a description. So I said we're going to do an example today. And so let's use the data storytelling example, okay? Because I've got some file references and we can use that. And let's see, in the interest of time, we should be able to get through this. They have another demo if we have enough time, but let's focus on this one. So this one we're going to create. We're going to call it. Let's say we're going to call it data storytelling. Okay, assistant for Q1. Okay, so okay, and the description I'm just going to throw in here. Okay, and this is I've already got this already preset, so I'm going to just instead of typing it out, I'm just going to copy and paste it in. So you see, but essentially, it's specialized workspace for analyzing quarterly financial reports and creating data visualization, just like what we talked about earlier. I'm just giving a description for reference so that when I hit create, there you can see at the top it's showing me what that project looked like. And so I'm going to go into this in a minute, more detail in a minute here. But going back to my projects window where I have all my projects here, you can see at a glance, okay, right at the top there, and you've got these three dots, where I can star it, which is really kind of like making it a priority. It always percolates to the top. I can edit the details, I can archive it, I can delete it, okay. And let's go back into there. Okay, into the window. So here's the chat. Again, the chat is common to every window, which is really amazing. Okay, but this chat, we want it to be specific to this project. So over here on the left, on the right, you see memory. It currently says only me. It says the memory will be turned on. Don't worry about that right now. You'll see that later because context will drive the memory as we start using it. Right now, it doesn't know anything about this project. And then we have the instructions where we can tell it in here, okay, how we want it to behave. All right, so you put your thing in here. Always, when you respond to me, do the following. Or when you're doing an analysis, do the following. Take on this role, take on this character, take on this persona, okay, or this personality. And then the files, this is where you upload all of your files, your main files. Okay, that's such as your statement of operations, your policies, procedures. Those are just some for business. Maybe in this particular case, again, we're going to actually upload actual reports and the information that's relevant to that. Okay, so that's your just creating the project. All right. So now we're going to get into the knowledge. Okay, what I want I want Claude to do is I want it to do the following. So I'm going to go and give it the instruction. I say that each time you respond to me, essentially, take on the role of a data storing assistant, your core responsibility, okay, what I want you to do, and how I want you to analyze it as a statistical standards, and then and so on. So I'm going to just save those instructions. It could be anything in this case that's specific to the behavior, specific to what you wanted to remember. And you can come back and edit it, by the way. If you forgot something, you can come back and edit it and add to this list, okay? And now, so that's specific enough for Claude, will understand exactly what how it should behave within this project, okay? But it's flexible enough that it can be different and applied to different projects also too. So that what I gave it there can, you can take it and use it for other projects if it's relevant. All right. So then we can get into giving it the specific instructions. Okay, so now I'm going to upload these files. So now let's upload the files, and I'll start with, I've got three files I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it the sample quarterly report. I've got a sample financial reports, and then I have the metrics. Excuse me. So let's upload the financial, the quarterly, and the metrics. So again, these are the reference files that Claude is going to use. And it's showing you here how much capacity it has within that particular project, which is really nice. So, I'm 1% of what's available to me. So I can upload some really big documents, but in this case, these are relatively small. All right. So now I've done given it the instructions. I've given it the reference files. Again, think of this in the context of your business, guys, your business or your situation. And we're going to have some fun with this. If time permits, we can do another project too that, where it's not business related. So really it can be anything. Okay. It's just, you're working with Claude in a very specific, specialized and specific, project here. All right. And now, this is where the magic now happens. So now I've done that. I'm going to, ask it the following. Okay, so I've got this already pre-loaded, so I'm going to just paste this in here and I'm saying, based on the quarterly reports, remember, I've given it the reports, okay, and I've given it the way to behave and interact with me. So based on the quarterly report and the financial data that we've uploaded, please create a brief analysis highlighting our biggest revenue achievement this quarter, one concerning trend that in operating costs, one strategic opportunity you see, and recommendation for Q2 for the next quarter. All right. So that's where the magic happens, folks, right here. It's not going outside of this world. It's staying within this world. Okay, based on the documents that I've given it, and based on how I wanted to act or behave, or persona I wanted to take on. Okay. And you can see that I didn't have to explain the business. I didn't have to describe the data structure. Claude already knows all of that based on the documents that I've uploaded. Okay, and this is the power of projects. All right, so this is the response that I just got here based on those four things that I asked it. All right, so biggest revenue achievement, total year to date. That was a matter of seconds, right? Total year to date hit 4.85 million. Okay, year over year, with the net profit growing ever faster by at 18.5%. That's all in a matter of seconds that I was able to extract that. These are the types of things we used to do in data analytics, of going through mounds and mounds of data to come up with these types of recommendations, these types of analysis. We're using some of the visualization tools, and then of course you interpreting the results. Claude has done this in seconds for me. So a concerning trend that is found here, in the operating costs, cloud infrastructure costs are climbing 6% versus Q4. That's now $320,000. That's a significant amount. What an incredible find. Imagine what that does to a business to be able to find that type of insight in a matter of seconds. All right. Gives you an opportunity to pivot. It gives you an opportunity to start making savings when you're really looking at these tools in a very in the context of efficiency and productivity. Again, you've got strategic opportunity. Well, product C is 22% growth, paired with 81% feature adoption. Highest of all the products. It's telling me what's selling. It's telling me right here what's selling. Product C. Okay, and what recommendation would you do? Well, you can pair. It's telling you right here. Okay, pair the planned cost optimization program with the cloud cost. I mean, folks, and again, I'm not going to read this in full details here, but again, and then of course you want to go deeper, you can interact with it now. Okay, you can say, okay, wow, well, that's an incredible found that you found that's happening in this trend, or this operating cost savings. Can you go deeper? Can you give me month by month? This is where now you can interact with it at an even deeper level. We're only staying high level right now for the purpose of this demo, but you can go as deep as you like, or build out, or ask it to give you projections, all in the context of this staying with the data and remember the storytelling reports that we're doing here. All right, so let's go to another prompt. Okay, we'll do another prompt here. Okay. Okay, so let's go to another prompt. Okay, here we go. I'll take this one here. Okay. Um, okay, all right. So compared to to doing this manually, of course, the quarter reports, would take maybe 15 minutes versus 20 minutes, and so on and so forth. And really, you could be, at this, analyzing this for quite some time if you were to do it manually. So let's ask Claude to do one more thing. Okay, so I'm going to give it this prompt as I indicated. Let's do the second prompt here. Okay, and I'll put that down here. So, and this one is, okay, the executive team wants to know, are we on track to hit 15% revenue growth, for the year? All right, and then show me the math. So it's going to take a few seconds or a minute or so to just go through this and do the analysis and then come back and tell me precisely what I need to know. All right. So a few things needed. Again, all this data is staying within this project, not outside the project. No one inside. If I leave this project, for example, and ask Claude about that, he wouldn't know anything because the project is isolated. Okay, and all the data within it is isolated to that project, so it's not being shared or being made available elsewhere. So and it's not used for at a bigger picture. It's not used to train Claude at the higher ups. It's only context sensitive to this project. Okay, so that's another great thing when you talk about privacy and your information and the information that's there. So a few things need to untangle here because the data reports tell me report tells slightly different stories. Let me show you what the math honestly says. All right, so the complication first is going into what the complication is, and it tells me the report headlines 12% revenue versus a year over year if for Q1 2026, but the monthly data shows something different. Okay, and then it's going to go down here and says Q1 data, January, and it's just breaking it down here. And it says, are we on track for 15%? Okay, two ways to look at it. Is this political or not? No, I don't. Come on, Claude, you're not getting political on me here. No, it's what it's showing you is different ways of looking at the data, which is if you brought in a highly expensive and professional consultant, they would give you the information that will allow you to make options to allow you make proper decision. That's precisely what we're talking about here when we're looking at it. So method one is to take the report's stated growth at face value. Method two is to is the run rate, and the company's own Q2 forecasting. And then you report the forecasting versus versus the other way of looking at it. So the honest read on it tells you the honest read. It says where the 15% bottom line comes from, and then it goes on. Bottom line to this whole thing is that one current trajectory. No, we're not on target. We're running between 12 and 13%. But if hitting the 15% is achievable, depending on some other things we can do here. So it's literally like bringing in this professional consultant that you're interacting with, and they're giving you advice based on what they're seeing in the data and their professional background and experience with the context of your data. Right. All right. So that's projects, and I can go on. I have other other prompts, and I won't go into too many of that. You get the idea. But I'm going to go back up to the top here. Okay, where the all the projects are. Okay, and here you can see again our storytelling, data storytelling prompt is maintained. All of our conversations are maintained within it here. All right, so I could ask another question. It will remember anytime I come in here, it will remember where we left off and with context. I can rename it. And if I'm done with it, say it's really successful or I'm done with it, I want it's my too cluttered, I can also archive it. Okay. So I can go here and just archive it. And what archiving does, it moves it into a bucket so that it doesn't crowd out my deck. I still have access to the information. It just goes over into a bucket called archive. Okay. For, you know, organization purposes. All right. So that's projects in a nutshell. All right. I don't think we have time, but tell you what I will do. I'm going to do this real as quickly as I can here. I'm going to just switch gears and do another project, and this one is baking cookies. For those of you who like to bake cookies, okay, or baking. I'm I'm a lousy baker, but these tools are so impressive that you can use them for almost anything. So imagine, I said we just used it for business. Imagine this. We're going to create a project, and this project is going to be, we'll call it a cookie baking assistant. Okay? So let's create a cookie baking assistant, all right? And basically, we're doing is we're asking it to. So we're gone shifting gears from business. I want you to see the context and behavior, and you can have fun with it, or you can be very professional, very business-like. So this is a friendly baking helper to create a perfect cookies with custom recipes and so on. So let's do that. Boom. Let's create the Okay, the context. Let's give it context. So we're going to give it the instruction. This is what I want you to do. So I'm going to go to the instruction set, and I'm going to ask it to behave this way. Okay, give me a minute. I'm just going to copy this and throw it in there. Okay, so under instructions, I'm giving it this behavior here. Okay, set of instructions, and I just copy and paste this in your classic cookie recipe and then ingredients and all that. I'm just gonna, okay. And now I'm going to, now that I've done that, okay. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, all right, I'd like you to, let me just put this prompt in here. Upload the baking guide text. Let me upload that text. The baking guide is, let's do that. The demo number 2, baking guide. Okay, whoops, I put the, okay, baking guide. All right, I'm doing this really fast here, so just bear with me. Okay, and then I'm just gonna ask it, okay, the question here. And okay, my cookies came out. Whoops, I think I missed one there. Okay, so now I'm telling Claude to do this. Okay, yeah. Okay, so my cookies came out a little too thin and crispy. Okay, what went wrong? So it's based on context. Okay, it now knows to tell me a bit about my cookies. Okay, oh, your cookies, are spread too thin because I really need this. Let me tell you. Okay? Your butter is too warm or melted. Too much granulated sugar, right? It's like, oh, really? For someone who doesn't know what they're doing about baking, this becomes powerful tool. By the way, I love to go to YouTube videos to watch, for cooking because I'm not, that great of a cook, but I follow the step-by-step YouTube videos sometimes. They come out really well. So this is another example of that where you have your own personal information database, essentially, or assistant. Okay, a cooking assistant in this case here. And I'm able to just asking, okay, I want to make some chewy cookies instead of some crispy cookies, and I'm giving it the ingredients and all the reference materials and so on, and I can ask it anything. Okay, so I could continue the conversation, but again, in the interest of time, I want to respect your time here, and I wanted to just show you how powerful it is when it comes to Claude projects and co-work. So I'm going to take some Q&A in a moment. Let me just go back to my screen here so that we just finish up on the, okay, and we'll finish up and then take some questions. All right. So in the real world example that we just saw, the data story telling projects, okay, we saw this done, really less than, in less than 15 minutes, right? We created a project with very clear name and purpose. We added the detail and the custom instructions. We uploaded, the reference documents, and we tested it with some questions. We got professional data-driven answer analysis, okay? And every single communication going forward now in that particular project, Claude instantly understands what's needed. No re-explaining, no context switching, just results. And you can come back to it a month from now, you can week from now, whenever you pick up where you left off. Okay, that's the beauty of having that project. All right, key takeaways: context is everything. Okay, according to this Harvard research, you improve the quality by 40% when you give people proper context, or a situation proper context, so that you have efficiency and productivity. Projects give Claude real great context. Expect great return on your investment if you apply this in your business. Okay, literally, you can save 4 to 10 hours per week instantly. I told you about the data analysis, and I've been in that space for years, and we used to charge thousands of dollars for in the corporate world and in my own business as an analytics expert, to build reports and to do the analysis and then to present it and so on. And the amount of things, the power you have at your fingertips now is incredible to be able to do this. And all of those things, by the way, don't go away. They don't. They're still there. People still need to analyze data. People still need to draw insights and go through mounds of information on an ongoing basis. And with the way technology is moving nowadays, it's you got to run your business, and you got to use the tool, and so these types of things just drives the efficiency so much more. Custom instructions, we talked about knowledge base, and of course, means that you never explain yourself when you have this knowledge base, and you can build these things in minutes. If you need to connect with me, again, we can reach out to me in different ways. You can scan the QR code to take to my LinkedIn. You can book a meeting with me on Calendly /W Hinds. And if your company needs an AI readiness assessment, we have a free tool that you can click on and go to AI readiness-check.2020ic.com. I'll put that on a link. And my book, Reclaiming Digital Gold, was written before ChatGPT was released on the world. And a lot of what is written in that book was predictive of where we are right now, and how much data and technology and AI is changing our world. So there'll be a new version of that being released shortly too, and so on. So let's get into any questions, and then we'll talk about what's coming up next. Let me just stop sharing. Let me check the questions first of all. Let's see if there's any questions coming. Okay, no. Any questions or comments? Let me stop sharing. And let me know if there's any questions. I'll just